So this is a security camera from Kitty Hawk. So I've been playing with this camera system, and I gotta tell you, it's almost the opposite of what you would get from Wyze. It even comes with its own built-in monitor, and you can install a hard drive in the back of it. So the beauty is, this is home security made easy, because you literally just plug in all 4 cameras into the wall, plug it in. They automatically connect wirelessly to the monitor, start recording as it sees movement and human detection, and you're off and running. So that is home security made super easy. But it also has some pretty crazy features that most people want as well. The monitor is a 12-inch LCD at 1366 by 768, so basically a 720p. So it does come with a pre-installed 1 terabyte hard drive, which you can undo with these 4 simple screws, and then these 4 screws take off the hard drive and you can totally replace it. Off to the side here, you have your network jack if you want to plug it in non-wirelessly. You do have an HDMI out, which I have currently running into my switcher to show you, 2 USB ports, and the power cable. So this system does come with 4 cameras, and I hope it doesn't get annoying seeing my delay in that corner. I just really kind of want to show you this system. It does come with the 4 cameras, and I can choose all 4 there. But if I install a couple more cameras, I could go either 6 or even choose up to 8 cameras that I install. And now that's really easy, and they're mostly plug and play. I can just say add camera and I'm up and running. I'm going to jump back to the 4, but if I dive into video playback, you can see that it's also been recording all of my videos in motion. And you can see I've had these up. We're on vacation for the weekend, so there's not much movement there, which was actually good, right? But it's so cool to be able to see, this was obviously during the day, but it's so cool to be able to just know that my footage is actually getting recorded to a central unit. That's one downside of the Wyze cams. Yes, they're super cheap, but they also record to the micro SD card. Well, if someone would take your entire camera and or your micro SD card out, or your card gets corrupted, you just lost the footage from that camera. So just think about that. Someone takes your camera off your front door and then they break into your house, but they take the camera with you, you don't have the footage. Yes, I understand that is the default, and you can actually pay Wyze to upload that footage to the cloud, which is probably recommended if you use Wyze because of that reason. It also records in H.265, which easily allows you to use that 1 terabyte hard drive to record up to 30 days of continuous footage from these 4 cameras. How fantastic is that? In fact, the worst part about this entire system that it comes with this super cheesy, cheap mouse, but that's how you control the interface. And we're going to touch more on that in a bit. These cameras are 3 megapixel HD 2K video cameras. Wow, that's a mouthful. But what it means is it's basically a higher resolution than Wyze, obviously, and it allows you to have up to 100-degree angle of viewing, which is pretty wide of an angle. Obviously, 180 would be straight out either direction, so a 100-degree beam, you're able to catch a pretty wide view of field. Also, they are IP66 waterproof, which means if they are sitting out in the rain or anything like that, that's going to be totally fine, and they can even withstand temperatures from -4 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 122. Now, if it's anything like the Wyze or Reolink cameras that I've already reviewed, if you haven't seen those, I'll leave links down below, but they still worked fine all winter for me, and here in Iowa, where it gets really cold, they worked totally fine, even the battery ones, outside when it got down to -30 wind chill at night. So just because it said it works down to -4 Fahrenheit, I haven't had these in this extreme cold because I got them a little after February, but I would say that they're going to work just fine. Now, it does come with these massive antennas that you screw on that allows it to wirelessly connect automatically to the head NVR, network video recorder. And what this allows you to do, though, is even cooler. You can actually bridge these off of each other. This is where you can create the topology of the entire camera system. So this is pretty cool. So here's the different topology, and then if you wanted to add an IPA camera off of one of these, you hit add, and you can extend that topology. I was able to put these cameras all throughout my whole house, out in my garage, and it did not matter where I put the NVR. They just connected and just worked. So that was a huge win. Now again, you control most of this interface with this mouse. So as I click, you're seeing exactly what's on the screen as well here. So as I click, you can see all kinds of system information, and you can create anything from alarms to that bridge topology that I was telling you about, to camera settings, when to record, when not to record. I mean, the options are absolutely endless, and you can manually configure IP addresses of everything. You can change the camera settings, so if you want them a little bit brighter or dimmer or color saturation, it's pretty incredible. In fact, the only feature that these cameras were not able to do was to turn off the infrared. So for instance, I had it set up in front of the window, shooting out the window, right? Because I didn't want this permanent setup just yet in my testing to see where I want my cameras. But I had it sticking out my window. Well, if you know much about infrared, it cannot actually shoot through a window, okay? So what does that mean? That means when I take this camera and I put it up against the glass and it's dark out, it's gonna shoot this infrared beam, right? So let me show you what that looks like here. This infrared beam here shoots at that window to try to light up the outside so it can get a better image on this camera. But you can't turn that off. So I was, even though I have enough lights outside, this is what I do for Wyze sometimes. I'll shoot it out the window, but turn off the infrared. So then that way the lights outside make it bright enough for the camera to still see. Well, this one you're not able to turn off the infrared sensor. So if that is a deal breaker for you, I guess move along now. Now with the app installed, which is kind of nice, you can both have it for your phone, but also for a PC. They do not have the Mac software from what I could find, but you can, view the cameras and see the playback, check what happens at home. But the app is somewhat responsive and gets notifications, but it's nothing compared to the Wyze app. And what do I mean by that? Obviously, all the configuration happens from the monitor. And with the monitor being the central location for all the settings, the app just kind of feels weak, if you will, because all you do is get to view things. You can record and you can do a few things, but you can't change camera settings, you can't, all the features you can do on here you can't really do. So it seems somewhat limiting, but ultimately, once I have the Wyze cams or Reolink cams or even now the Kitty Hawk cams set up, I don't really change settings very often. I mostly just go back, view playback. So it's not a big deal breaker, but just keep that in mind if you're not at home and you need to try to change some settings. I'm not sure why you would, but you're not going to be able to do that. Okay, so keep in mind, you're going to get some audio from this camera, but it's a security camera, not a production camera. But it still sounds pretty decent. What do you think? So if I dive into system settings here, this is where you can get all kinds of information. So here's kind of tabs across, and then within each tab you have these different settings here, right? So if I'm in general settings tab, you can change your language, and here's the output I have on this display. I actually bumped it up. You can actually force it up, which is good when you are exporting it out to a device because it just mirrors this. So to get it to work in my Blackmagic ATEM Mini, I had to force it to a higher resolution there. You can enable or disable the auto logout of this and set that password. Auto switch allows you to just constantly jump camera views every 5 seconds or however many seconds you would like. Man, there's just all kinds of stuff. Sync and time, you got hard drive settings, so you can see that there's a Toshiba 1 terabyte hard drive currently in there. You can reformat it. I've been using this for a few weeks now, 2-3 weeks, and I'm at 25% full. And then also with errors, you can say, do you want an alarm, or what does that look like? So when it comes to recording, I actually reset it all and changed it to nothing. Okay, and this interface is not the most intuitive, but basically, remember, channels are each camera, so I can dive into the time, and then let's say I want to record all day. So I have time selected here, okay, and I can click each one of these squares, Okay, so I want to record all of these days. I'm going to take a lot of clicks here, right? And then let's say I want motion also detected at this time and this time and that time. And I want alarms only at this time, right? Let me click that. Come on, alarm. There we go. So you can also just hit select all for alarms, and then I could say motion, select all, and then I can say time, select all. And again, this is only for channel 1. So if I want to do that for channel 3, for instance, but I want them all to be the same, all I have to do is say copy to all the cameras and go. So now I'm going to get recording at all times, motion detection at all times, and alarms at all times. Now, I should probably turn this off so this thing doesn't start beeping at me because it's going to sense motion as soon as I move my arm in front of the camera. Okay, so here are the network settings, and I gotta say it's pretty fantastic the fact that you can actually configure a lot of this if you're into that, but if not, you just keep that DHCP selected and it'll automatically do most of the magic for you. You can use that network jack on the side, plug in the cable, and you're off and running. If you do use wireless, my experience has not been great with connecting this to the internet. The cameras to this are fantastic. This to the internet, not as much. And even when it's right next to my wireless router. So just so you know, that's been my experience. But if you're just planning on plugging a network cable anyway, then it's going to be amazing. Otherwise, it might just be a slightly weak signal. You can also set dynamic DNS. If you don't know what a lot of this stuff is, not a big deal, but I'm going to click through these so that if you do want to know what those are, then you can see them here. Otherwise, pretty easy and great features here. And here's where you configure the wireless internet to connect to your house. Currently, I have it unhooked. And going into channel settings, remember channels are the cameras. So here's where you can set some of this different stuff, video only, stream only. Some of the stuff you actually can't even change anyway. You can name the camera here. So as you see up in the top left corner there, I have it called living room, where the other ones are just called cam 1, cam 2, cam 3. Because I was going to go through this all, but I'm not sure where I want all these cameras yet. But it's a kind of a pain to change the name, right? So you have to click this, click this. It basically, it just takes a little while to just click, point, click, right? So anyway, I have not gone through and done all of that. Video detection, same kind of thing. Enable detection, make sure it's a human body. So one cool thing is in the channel settings, right, for the cameras, if I choose camera 4 or this one here and I say full screen and I hit apply, what's going to happen is that's going to allow that camera to then, if it senses motion detection, if it senses, movement or a person, it'll actually go full screen. I never thought about this until one of my friends mentioned, our front door doesn't have a lot of windows. So when someone rings the doorbell, we sometimes want to see who's there, and we don't want them to necessarily know we're here, right? Because we're all introverts now. So they want to see who's at the front door. Well, this would allow them to have a front camera pointed at the door, and this monitor sitting maybe next to the door or in the living room, and as soon as that camera's triggered, you could have this thing start beeping, or this camera start doing a siren. You probably wouldn't want that for every person that walks up to your door, but then this would jump full screen right to that camera view, and that would allow you to see who's at that front door. I thought that was kind of a cool use case. I never thought about that. What about value? This camera system comes in right around $300. In fact, Kitty Hawk was even nice enough to give my viewers a 5% discount. Now, just so you know, I do get a little kickback from that as well. So only buy this camera system if it's actually the right one for you, right? So we've already touched on kind of the pros and cons from the Wyze cams versus the Reolink versus the Kitty Hawk. Now, let me know, is this the right camera system for you? Do you like these features? Are there more features or questions you have about the system? If so, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do for a follow-up video or answer your questions in the comments. Otherwise, I have some links over here to some Wyze cam videos. of me setting them up or the Reolink videos, comparing them. If those are interesting, click over there. Until next time, I hope this helped. See ya.